Your views and comments are welcome on the program. Remember to like our Facebook page and our YouTube channel and be the first to see as it happens. Watching TV on the go. Sly Media TV. Building bridges.
We realize that there are some issues that may need the attention of ZEC and other electoral stakeholders as they embark on this critical mop-up exercise. My name is Tatenda Mazarura Mike. I'm the Communication and Advocacy Manager at the Election Resource Center. On my left is Tawanda Chimini, the Executive Director at the Election Resource Center. And on my far left is Solomon Bobo Sibunu. He's responsible for for training and outreach. Yes, thank you. I'll hand over to Tawanda.
Good morning, everyone. And thank you for coming through. I thought we would start by introducing ourselves, but we can always get into that. So I'll go through the statement that we have come up with, which is for immediate release. So the Zimbabwe Election Commission has embarked on a biometric voter registration mop-up exercise, and I must insist that ZEC is calling this a mop-up exercise and not an extension. And this exercise is was supposed to start on the 10th of January until the 8th of February 2018. 2,850 mobile and 87 static registration centers have been established across the country. The mop-up exercise was necessitated by the low turnout in some provinces and a High Court judgment ordering ZEC to register the so-called aliens who hitherto were denied the right to vote. So we had a challenge where some Zimbabweans eligible to vote had been disenfranchised on the basis of eligibility, according to ZEC's interpretation of what the law said. And as civil society organizations will raise concerns that such an interpretation was not consistent with the provisions of the Constitution, which allowed people the right to vote. So while the extension of the voter registration is commendable, the ERC notes that the exercise was launched before the completion of adequate preparations, procedures, and communication. Further, the Election Resource Center is concerned that critical election processes continue to be administered against the backdrop of an electoral act that remains largely unaligned with the Constitution of Zimbabwe. And in our view, it's one thing to continuously have these administrative processes happening, but as long as we continue to have them happen on the basis of an electoral act, that remains disputed. The quality, the credibility, the freeness, and the fairness of our election processes will always remain in doubt. As such, the ERC notes with concerns the following. Number one, the failure of the Zimbabwe Election Commission to timeously release a list of the voter registration centers to ensure effective participation of citizens from an informed position. So if you remember, the final list of these centers were only released a day before the actual mop-up exercise commenced. And this has a bearing on the level of participation that citizens will have. So Zimbabweans have started to ask where this mop-up exercise is happening. Zimbabweans have started to ask how they can participate in this mop-up exercise. And there's limited information regarding this. And this has a bearing on the quality of participation that Zimbabweans will have regarding voter registration. Secondly, the ERC remains concerned that the requirements for former aliens for them to register to vote have not been adequately published for ease of participation by the vulnerable groups. So with the new changes that have happened as a result of the judgment, we still are convinced that not enough information has been made available to these vulnerable communities for them to effectively participate in the registration exercise. And we would definitely want to see ZEC do more in terms of raising awareness around these new provisions, if there are new provisions at all. Thirdly, the ERC is concerned at the lack of explanation on the selection and sampling criteria of the 2,850 registration centers and the absence of disaggregated data prevents stakeholders from assessing the sampling criteria of the mop-up exercise. One of the things that you must appreciate is that in terms of elections, and election administration, ZEC has a responsibility to be accountable to election stakeholders. And to be held accountable, ZEC must avail information. So when it comes to the sampling exercise, you're looking at over 9,500 centers that are potential registration centers, which will be potential polling stations. And the argument has always been, let's bring registration to as close to communities as is possible. Now, if ZEC decides to sample only 2,850 centers out of the possible 9,500, it is crucial, as part of ZEC being transparent and accountable, to avail information as to how they've arrived at that number. Why 2,850 and not more or not less? So as part of being accountable, as part of being transparent, ZEC must avail this information so that stakeholders can hold ZEC accountable. So if this information is not made available on time, if this information is not also made available in an adequate format, in a disaggregated format, it becomes also difficult for us to be able to hold ZEC accountable. Fourthly, the Election Resource Center remains concerned around the fact that voter education and voter information for voter registration remains largely inadequate, as witnessed by the low uptake of the voter registration exercise, particularly in Harare and Bulawayo. There is a lack of information on whether mechanisms were established by ZEC to ensure effective participation by marginalized groups such as aliens, women, youth, and persons with disabilities in the mop-up exercise. And mind you, when you consider the fact that we have now seen this so-called extension, one gets the perception that the problem around uptake for registration could have been time allocated for people to register to vote. But in our own assessments, we've seen that it's not necessarily the issue of time. It could be that people have found it difficult to access the necessary documentation. So the key question of the day is the mop-up exercise answering the question of documentation, which has been at the center of some Zimbabweans failing to register. So you can extend this, you can mop up this exercise as often as you want. But if you're not addressing the fundamental challenges that people are facing when they go to register to vote, and any amount of extension will not be adequate to address the challenges that Zimbabweans are facing. Some Zimbabweans have raised concerns around their confidence in terms of the registration process itself and the Election Commission. So even if you do extend the process, if you're not addressing those challenges around confidence in the election process itself, the mop-up exercise will still not address the inadequacies that we've seen in the past pertaining to civic participation in the process. Fifthly, the Election Resource Center notes with concerns statements attributed to the Minister of Justice, Legal and Parliamentary Affairs, Honorable Ziyambi, insisting that there will be no electoral reforms necessary ahead of the impending harmonized elections. Lack of reform compromises the independence of ZEC, as we have noted in the past, where we have insisted that the electoral legal framework must be fully aligned with the Constitution to give interpretation to the independence of the Election Commission as is defined in the Constitution. So the absence of these reforms will compromise the independence of the Election Commission, its capacity to be transparent, accountable, and its capacity to adhere to international best practice regarding the administration of election processes. So on one hand, you've heard the president say that he would want to see free and fair elections. On the other hand, we've heard the Minister of Justice say that there are no reforms necessary for us to have free and fair elections. And to us, there is a contradiction. You cannot suggest that you want to see things changed when the very things that have contributed to contest around our elections are not changed. And part of where our elections have been contested is the legal framework of our elections, where the argument still persists that our election act is not fully aligned with the Constitution. As such, the Election Resource Center implores the Zimbabwe Election Commission to, number one, intensify voter education for voter registration, targeting aliens, women, youth, persons with disabilities, and other marginalized groups, largely affected by challenges during the previous biometric voter registration phases that we've seen. Secondly, the ERC implores ZEC to increase the number of mobile registration centers to enhance inclusivity of marginalized groups and disadvantaged groups. This is the question of access. Thirdly, the Election Resource Center implores ZEC to increase the number of kits in areas that reported a low turnout of registrants. in particular the urban areas of Bulawayo, Harare, and Matabeleland South. Fourthly, the Election Resource Center implores ZEC to immediately to push for immediate reform of electoral processes, in particular alignment of electoral laws with the Constitution, including but not limited to ensuring the independence of the Election Commission, extending the right to vote to all eligible Zimbabweans, creation of a political environment that allows citizens to freely participate in electoral processes, and opening up of electoral processes for international scrutiny. The ERC urges ZEC to address the fundamental issues above to ensure a comprehensive, inclusive BVR mop-up exercise. Transparency in all electoral processes is key for ZEC to enhance trust ahead of the harmonized election. And that's the end of our statement.
Thank you, Tawanda. Allow me to welcome our board chairperson, Mr. Trust Maanda. Thank you for joining us. I'll open up this to the floor. Kindly introduce yourself first and also tell us the major house you're representing. We'll have the first 3 set of questions. Yes.
Farah Machaman from Daily News. You spoke of contradictions within government. One of the president's assertion of free and fair elections, but offering no timelines for implementation.
That is clearly one of the issues we've raised with the president directly, where we've written to him to say his statements in his inaugural speech must find effect in practical steps that his administration begins to take. And these practical steps, in our view, are centered on 3 fundamental areas. The 3 fundamental areas are: 1, the legal framework. If the administration is serious about free and fair elections, as espoused in the inaugural speech, the expectation would be that we immediately see moves to not only align our election laws with the Constitution, but to begin reforming the same election laws to give effect to the issue of credibility, freeness, and fairness. So the legal framework is one theater that would expect that this administration to seriously take major steps on in terms of giving effect to freeness and fairness in our elections. Secondly, would immediately want to see the establishment look at supporting an administrative framework of our elections which enhances transparency, accountability, and independence of the Election Commission. So can we begin to see practical steps by this administration to give ZEC its independence, to allow ZEC to make decisions, to support ZEC through financial resources to ensure that they administer election processes in a manner that is exhaustive enough to improve the quality of the processes. Like I said, you can talk about these administrative processes as they happen, but the real issue around these administrative processes is not necessarily the quantitative elements. So you don't want an election commission that says, yes, we registered voters, and that was enough. You need to be able to assess the quality. And for the quality of registration to be at the level of international standards that we want to see, it means that it must be exhaustive enough. It means that it must be supported by voter education. It means that ZEC, in planning it, must be transparent. It means that ZEC, in terms of its implementation of these processes, it is inclusive and it is accountable to stakeholders. We've not seen this establishment support and cultivate that kind of a culture in how our elections are administered. You still see a lot of secrecy around ZEC. So how much money did ZEC ask for from government for the mop-up exercise? How much was actually given? Of that money, is it adequate enough for ZEC to conduct an exhaustive process? Are we seeing the establishment support ZEC to do this? Is the establishment supporting ZEC to come up with regulations independently which support a free and fair election? Then, of course, the question of the political environment, where in the past we have seen a political environment that compromises freeness, fairness, and credibility of our election processes. We've seen traditional leaders align themselves to specific political parties and campaign for political parties, which is unconstitutional. So if this administration is serious about free and fair election, you will likely want to see them, when they meet with traditional leaders, telling traditional leaders that they have no right to campaign for specific political parties. They are accountable to everyone. So if we are serious and sincere about freeness and fairness of our elections, these are the crucial things that will show that there is no inconsistency between what this establishment is saying and what this establishment is doing. So these are issues that we have raised, and the board chair will affirm to this, both with the president himself, with the Minister of Justice as well, but also with the Election Commission, to say these are steps that are crucial for us to be convinced that the words that have been spoken by the president are being supported by the establishment that he has set up ahead of the next election. And like you rightly pointed out, a lot of these factors are time-bound. So if you get a lot of these changes happening on the eve of our elections, they're immaterial, because our elections are not on the election date. Elections are the processes that lead up to the election date. So the quality of the processes leading up to the election date have a bearing on the credibility of our elections at the end of the day.
Yes, thank you.
My name is Problem myself from the Herald. My question is, what might be the cause of low turnout of registrants in Bulawayo and Harare?
We'll have the next question, then he can respond once.
Okay. Excuse me. My name is Anna Chibamu. I work for New Zimbabwe. We just had the acting MDCT president, Elias Munzuri, on Friday, demanding or calling for a SEC chairperson to be appointed by the government. What impact does it have not to have a chairperson for the electoral body?
I think we can take another, the two questions.
All right, my name is Kamshina Slo from Global Press. It's a follow-up question to the one that was asked by Problem. In terms of demography, which are the groups that are not being responsive to these registration processes in the areas that you noted that there was low turnout? And what would be the reasons also for that?
Did you get that?
Yes.
Okay, my name is Nkosana, I'm a freelance journalist. I just wanted to ask, what sort of impact, what changes does it make now that Makarabo is no longer SEC boss? Does it change anything? Does it bring back, does it restore SEC's credibility, as it were? Maybe another issue which is more or less related to one asked before, that voter education has a lot to do with demographics as well. You can't have an old woman in rural areas going to register with BVI. Then you find somebody who is supposedly enlightened in Bulawayo failing to register. Is it an issue to do with voter education, or is it an issue to do with general apathy? And you may also want to say a little on the disabled. How is the current process impacted on how the disabled are participating in the process?
The first one would be, what might be the reason for low voter turnout in Bulawayo and Harare?
So there are a number of factors that are contributing to low voter turnout for Harare and Bulawayo. I think part of the problem is exactly like Nkosana has said. When you consider the model of voter education that is being used by the Election Commission, it is not necessarily responsive to people in urban communities, and we've raised this with the Election Commission. So if you conduct door-to-door voter education, as an example, as a model, it's very costly. You need to be paying your voter educators per day to be on the ground. But whereas Hararians or people from Bulawayo during the day, are they found at home? So your door-to-door exercise is not going to reach out to these people because they are not there. So access to information in these communities has been problematic, and it could be contributing to what we're terming as low uptake of the voter registration exercise in these communities. Secondly, the whole issue of actual distribution of the centers themselves. If you consider the fact that in this mop-up exercise, according to our estimate, Bulawayo has 2% of the distribution of the mobile centers themselves. In terms of the static centers, Bulawayo also has about 5.7% of these static centers. But if you look at the population in these communities, it's highly concentrated. So the argument would be, let the distribution and allocation of these centers be proportionate to the potential registrants in some of these communities. We've not seen that proportionate distribution of some of these centers, including in the 4 phases that we had. And this was one of the questions that we raised. In fact, if you consider Harare and Bulawayo, you will find that a lot of people come from these satellite communities around Harare and spend a lot of their time in Harare during the day. So the argument was that in as much as you were seeing a lot of people coming out to register to vote in Harare, some of them were not even from Harare, but they were taking advantage of the fact that there were centers in Harare to register to vote. And that could have pushed out those that are resident in Harare to actually failing to register, because the accused, the accessibility of these centers will have become less. So in our view, the distribution of these centers, the voter education element that we raised, would be important in terms of addressing the low uptake that we've witnessed. Another element that has contributed to low uptake could be access to documentation in some of these communities as well. So part of our argument to the Election Commission is that it is within their mandate to come up with ways in which they can open up registration. So apart from improving voter education, apart from revisiting their distribution of some of these centers, the Election Commission could consider administrative ways of making registration accessible. So if we go to the question of the issue of proof of residence, the Electoral Act is clear. It says ZEC may. It doesn't say ZEC must. So it means that the Election Commission can actually take an administrative decision and remove some of these restrictions to allow for more people to register to vote, especially if the Commission has proclaimed that their intention is to have 100% registration. So what you would want to see from the Commission at the end of the day is them attempting to open up registration to make it more accessible to people rather than closing the space. And that could be one way of addressing the issue of low uptake in Harare and Bulawayo.
The implications of not having a SEC chairperson.
Now, the question of the implications of not having a substantive chair, they are quite far-reaching. They are far-reaching in the sense that if you have somebody who acts as a chairperson, the chances of that person making substantive decisions are very slim. So anyone who acts normally, they would want to perpetuate what has been. Then you really want to see, you really see them making very substantive decisions. And that is the dangerous part about proceeding to an election with an acting chair. The argument is that there must be security of tenure in the chairperson of the commission, allowing him adequate independence to assert himself and administer elections in a manner that is fully compliant with international standards and the provisions of the law. Now, if you have an acting person, he's probably thinking, am I going to be appointed the chairperson? Am I not? What is my role? Will I be allowed space to act? Can I rock the boat and get away with it? So these are the key questions that arise around the question of substantiveness of a chairperson of an election commission. And all things being equal, at the end of the day, if you want to have a strong commission that is able to administer election processes, you definitely cannot run away from the fact that you need to have a substantive chairperson. That will help in ensuring that the chairperson has full control of the commission and can assert himself and allow himself to fully prepare for the elections in a manner that is reflective of the constitutional mandate that the office of the chairperson will have. So the encouragement is that indeed that appointment must be made substantive as early enough as is possible to allow for the strengthening of the commission and for the commission to fully prepare for elections without necessarily having this constant change in leadership, which has the bearing of introducing the necessary stability in the election commission for it to be able to roll out preparations for elections which are in sync with international standards.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think the next question is around Makarau's departure having a bearing on the credibility of SEC.
No. Just on the demography of those not going for registration in the notice players.
Right.
So I asked that question.
Oh, there was that, but it's not the next one. I'll agree. The next question was on the demographics. So part of the challenge that we are continuing to face, and like we said, we are continuing to engage the Election Commission on this, is with respect to disaggregated data pertaining to voter registration. Now, at this moment, ZEC has not made public any disaggregated data, which will confirm which age group has actually gone out to register and in which areas these groups have registered to vote. So that information has not been formally released. What we know is the total number of people that have registered to vote in specific provinces. It has not been disaggregated to a point of saying how many of these people are under 18, how many are under 35. What we have seen through our observations has been the demographics of people that come to register. So if you go to a registration center, you're able to see the age groups that are coming to register. But it's not enough to use those observations to then be very conclusive to say that only this age group is registered to vote and not this age group.
From your observations, what did you see?
We have largely seen the traditional age groups that come out to vote coming out to register. So we have largely seen the elderly coming out to register in our communities. We have also seen some young people coming out to register in the towns. So it's been a blend. In urban communities, you have seen your 18 to about 40 age group going out to register in huge numbers. In rural communities, you have seen your 35 to about 60 going out to register. But for us to conclusively say that this is the age group that has responded well to registration, we would need the figures as given by ZEC, and we would need to work with the official figures. Now, this is part of the transparency that we've insisted as a fundamental principle that the Election Commission must have. This is information that they already currently have. But we understand that some of their fears as the Election Commission is that if they begin to share this information, remember, they have not done a deduplication exercise because there's a storm around the tendering of the deduplication equipment. So that process allows for them to eliminate people who have registered multiple times. So we may be seeing these people coming out to register, but whether they successfully then register can only be determined if ZEC then makes that information public. So the encouragement to ZEC is they must make disaggregated information as accessible as is possible so that we begin to do such assessments as part of holding ZEC accountable, but also as part of informing strategies around which age groups require the most mobilization for them to actually appear on the roll.
Just to make a name. The last question is from...
Concerning Rita Makarau.
Yeah.
Yeah. So at the end of the day, if the argument, and this is the argument that we've made as the Election Resource Center, we have insisted on the strengthening of institutions as opposed to the strengthening of individuals. So in Rita Makarau, we had an election chairperson, the Zimbabwe Election Commission chairperson. In our view, on her own, she should not have been the one to determine whether people have confidence in the commission or not. Of course, we've seen commissions examples in India where the personality of the chairperson is an overbearing influence on how the election commission is perceived. But in our view, we would prefer a situation where we strengthen ZEC as an institution so that whichever chairperson comes in, it's a chairperson that is able to conduct their work in a manner that strengthens the institution as a whole. So even if that chairperson goes, the culture within the institution is strengthened through a very strong legal framework. It's strengthened through a very strong administrative culture. And it's strengthened through non-interference by the executive. So in our view, with Rita Makarau going, the credibility of the Election Commission remains where it was when she was there, where we continued to scrutinize it. Our fear is that because we have a new dispensation, will there be attempts at influencing how the commission works? And can such influencing of how the commission works be through the appointment of the chairperson? And our view is that it is much better for us to strengthen the commission by ensuring that we strengthen the laws that put the commission into place. And in our view, if you build strong laws, you ultimately build strong institutions. So whichever individual you end up coming up with, as long as the institutions are strong, the individuals can only enhance, but not undermine the performance of the commission.
What other things seems to be worrisome is the situation, circumstances surrounding the departure of Rita Makarao. We are not too sure, or maybe we're not privy to the reasons of the resignation, whether the reasons are personal, or whether the reasons are professional, or whether the reasons are to do with other external circumstances around her departure. So we are not too sure, and that also explains why we are a bit worried about this, the acting nature of the current the acting chairperson, because the acting chairperson may not be aware of the causes of the former chairperson's departure, because then if you do not know what was pinching the toes of your former person or the former chairperson, you may not wear the shoe with comfort. So we're not too sure, and that secrecy may to some extent be worrisome to even the chairperson that is acting now. So to come back to the question about whether the departure of Rita causes maybe consternation among us, yeah, we can still come back to the fact that if there's no chairperson now, ZEC is not properly constituted because there has to be a chairperson. So it means that the body is not properly constituted, and therefore there is need for a quick appointment of the substantive person there, so that the work goes on in terms of the constitutional requirements, as it were. So I would add to what Mr. Jimino was saying in respect of our concerns and in respect of what we have noted.
Okay, thank you very much for joining us. For any further questions or clarity, I think we'll refer you to our email. You can email us on information@erczim.org or our social media platforms, Twitter and Facebook. We use Election Resource Center. Thank you very much.
Your views and comments are welcome on the program. Remember to like our Facebook page and our YouTube channel and be the first to see as it happens. Watching TV on the go. Sly Media TV. Building bridges.